Market. Welcome to the show. I'm Dooner. It's been a weird year. It got even weirder. Someone sent me this video, Eid Cali 12, and it sounds like an earthquake at sea. Take a look. Tell me what you think.
Denize bak.
My vote is for underwater kaiju, given this year. Underwater kaiju or overhead UFO. That's kind of scary, though. Good thing nothing happened with those guys. You can stop this over here. We got a big show today. We got FreightWaves Rachel Premack. She's going to talk about the ecological disaster caused by that Norfolk Southern derailment over in Ohio. It's a bad scene over there. She's also going to talk about what bubble wrap and beer have to say about the economy. Riteload, they're trying to reinvent logistics with a broker-free load board. Their founder and CEO Matthew Kane's here. We're going to find out how they intend on doing that. Plus, we might get into some sweet truck wraps. I want to know how do they perform those. Not every driver loves seeing the all-seeing eye of the dash cam, but JJ Keller's Rick Malchow is here to talk about why they're good, how they're protecting drivers and carriers against nuclear verdicts. And then we got Back the Truck Up SuperTrucker. He's showing up to talk about best Valentine's Day gifts for truckers, Zoox autonomous cars getting approval in California, hazmat spills, cutting in line at the receiver, and dumb truck stunts, many of which I'm sure he's participated in. But let me get you to the ad read here, and then we'll jump over to Rachel. You may think of AIT, Worldwide Logistics, as an average U.S. forwarder, but in the past decades, they've evolved to become a global transportation management leader, generating nearly $3 billion in annual revenue by providing supply chain solutions for Fortune 500 companies shipping between Asia, Europe, and North America. Despite the company's exponential growth, they are still the experts when it comes to creating customized solutions to fulfill your supply chain requirements. Find out how your business can benefit from AIT's Logistics Pros at AITworldwide.com. And now with me, it is FreightWaves editorial director Rachel Premack. Rachel, happy Wednesday to you.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
It's this year just keeps getting worse and worse, right? I mean, last year we kind of had a light topic. We were just talking about the humble box, and this has escalated to what has gone on in Ohio with this derailment. What is the current state of things there? If you go online, you see people talking nonstop. They say, hey, nobody's covering this incident. It's this huge disaster, and more information's coming out. You just put out a new article. What is happening?
Yeah, so right now, actually, February 3rd, Norfolk Southern had a 150-car train derail near the Ohio village of East Palestine. About 5,000 people live there. And yeah, there was this train was hauling hazardous chemicals, most prominently vinyl chloride, which is used to make plastics and packaging products. Shortly after, Norfolk Southern had a controlled burn of those chemicals, so there wasn't a dangerous explosion, but the controlled burn, as you can see in this video, was also something that raised a lot of flags for local residents. And it's been more than 10 days, and residents were told on February 8th that they could return to their homes. And the Environmental Protection Agency says, there's nothing, they haven't found anything hazardous in the air that could be linked to this controlled burn and this derailment. However, they're still testing the water, and local residents are saying that they've been having headaches, it hurts their eyes. They've been having a persistent cough. Others have even reported that their fish and chickens have died.
Rachel, we go on and on about the environment and environmental protection, and then we just have how long was that black cloud burning for?
I don't know the exact time, but they were allowed to return to their homes February 8th. I believe that is when the controlled burn ended. So it's this weird juxtaposition between what the EPA says, it's okay to go back, it's okay to breathe the air, but residents are really concerned about what is happening, and this could also spread outside of this one Ohio town. I mean, this derailment happened pretty close to Cleveland, to Pittsburgh, to Youngstown, a few other metropolitan areas. So it's definitely, we don't know exactly what are the long-term health risks of this, but it's, if I were a local resident, I would certainly be concerned just based off those pictures.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you saw that cloud from the airplane. It's massive. You know, when I was a kid, they'd go on and on about a hole in the ozone layer. You see this giant black cloud. I mean, we just had Turkey on fire too, right? That port over there was like burning madness. Yeah. It's so sad to see all this. We're seeing a lot of people who want answers about this thing. A lot of people are yelling about it. I've heard PSR get blamed. You've heard Biden get blamed. You've heard Pete get blamed. What is to blame here? Is it a lax in regulations? We just had this big dispute. We were leading up until Christmas, right? Is the world going to end because rail's going on strike? These rail workers, they want these safety conditions. There's been this lobby to put these brakes on the trains, I've heard, but then the brakes never got put on the trains. Who's to blame when we unwind all this?
Yeah, so the NTSB, which investigates these accidents and comes up with some sort of reasons for the collision and for the derailment, they won't have an answer for this, like a detailed answer for this, for probably the next year or two is how long it takes to put together these reports. But you know, there's not really any option but to haul hazardous chemicals via rail. It's not cost effective to do it via truck. You can do pipeline, but that's also a pretty slow process. So I think it's important to make sure that these trains are as safe as possible. We do see hundreds of derailments every year, and the rate of derailment has decreased over the past few decades, but you know, as these trains get longer and as they haul, you know, these dangerous chemicals, I think it is important to try to figure out, okay, how can we make this necessary process for our industrial era as safe as possible, not just for the employees on the train, but also the people who live near these rail lines, which is a lot of people. A lot of people live near trains.
So Bank of America's Ken Hoexter, he wrote that Norfolk Southern may have to pay $40 to $50 million in a casualty charge. That's about the budget of like your average Netflix movie. Like, is this going to these things discourage a company that made $3 billion in profits?
So I covered yesterday that two banks put out, you know, analyst reports trying to figure out what would be the financial impact of this derailment, and it doesn't seem that this is something that would really carve out or come close to carving out, you know, Norfolk Southern's profits. There are several class action suits that have been filed against the railroad, but the fact that there wasn't any immediate casualty as a result of this derailment, unlike other derailments, it probably won't result in a major expense for Norfolk Southern.
Oh, great. So if you get sick and die slowly for chemicals, it's not as bad as if the train just blows up in front of your face. Is that what you're telling me here?
Yeah, yes, that is essentially the situation. And because we don't know the long-term health effects, it's something that I think we'll probably be hearing about this story many years down the line if it comes out that there are long-term health adverse effects from this derailment.
Okay, well, you know, it's been a stressful year, and I talked to Donnie recently. Donnie Gilbert, if you might know him from FreightWaves Now, he does the sonar reports. He's one of our market experts. He did a sonar report on here a couple weeks ago. He also runs a liquor store. He's got a family liquor store, and I said, Donnie, how are sales going? And he said they're down 48% this year. You put up an article that said that beer is just tanking. We actually have a chart. Can you guys show this chart here? And if you look across all categories, except for like below premium, everything is down. Everything is down here, including the seltzers.
Below premium. Yes. I think this was kind of one of the more interesting things. Seltzer is not what it used to be. So I'm just going to talk about seltzer for a little bit because I think it's interesting. And craft as well. You can see that's the demand for that is way down. What's going on with seltzer and craft and a lot of these, like, I guess more like trendy brews or trendy products is that people have switched to other new trends, like ready to drink canned cocktails is one new trend that's getting getting a lot of attention. People are spending a lot on those ready-to-drink canned cocktails. But, taking a step back for beer generally, people are buying less beer than they were at this time last year. They bought less beer than they did in December as well. And it's not a great indicator for the economy, because we're seeing people who are still drinking beer are actually going into these like lower, I guess they're trading down categories, or they're trading down the units that they buy. So people who maybe used to buy Bud Light, they're instead buying Natural Light. So they're moving down categories. I've heard a lot of arguments that Natural Light is just better. But yeah, I've heard some arguments that that's actually a good thing. But anyways, people are also buying a smaller amount. Instead of buying a 30-pack, they might buy a 12-pack. And we've also seen,
Rachel, what is the preferred?
Just single.
What is the, you're getting too far ahead of me here. You're getting too far ahead of me here. I'm still curious about something. What is the preferred below premium beer? What are people drinking for? Like, I know there's $2 chuck for wine. What do you get on the beer side right now? Is that Natty Light? Because the guys in the back are yelling at my ear that you're completely wrong, and they consider that top shelf in their fridge. Do you guys in the back? So hold on a second. Let me ask these guys in the back, since Natty Light isn't it. Guys, what is your preferred non-premium beer then? Let's see if they answer. They just said Natty Light. I don't even know what they're talking about.
Yeah, that's the go-to for sure. And on Twitter, I got a lot of people responding, yeah, that's not an economic thing. That's just because it's better.
What about the people on my team? What about the no alcohol team? What about those guys? I mean, I don't drink as I can't, but there's people there's been a big movement in the past 6 months of people who are just stopping drinking entirely.
Yeah, so that was something I asked the economist from the Beer Brewers Association, and he made the argument that the amount of alcohol that people drink, it stays pretty steady over one's lifetime. And I heard other arguments that the alcohol industry is pretty much steady and it just grows with population. So I think there's definitely a chunk of the population that is turning away from alcohol entirely. I've certainly drink less than I did, when I was in my early 20s. I can definitely confidently say that. But I guess we are still trying to see what the no alcohol movement, how that's impacting this industry broadly. I think at the same time we see fewer people drink, we also see, unfortunately, more people drink more than they used to. I've heard reports that, fatty liver disease is becoming more common among young people, young women, and that used to be only a disease that we'd see in much older people. I think definitely the pandemic sparked a lot of that.
I saw that happen.
So that's kind of the dark side of it.
Rachel, I saw that happen in real life. When I used to work in the music industry, this British band came out, these girls called Miranda Sexgard, and they came out to visit Hollywood. And they were like the biggest scammers. They would take anyone who didn't finish their drink on a table. They would just walk around and they would drink anyone's unfinished beer or cocktail or anything. They weren't spending $1 at that bar. It was exciting to see. Now, before I let you go, I got two things. I was really impressed, to be honest with you. That was pre-COVID. That was 15 years before COVID. Bubble wrap, before I let you go, let's take a look at rates right here. Is this doing anything with rates? We're seeing them still looks downwards to me.
Yeah, so the bubble wrap numbers I was looking at were more around 2022 more broadly, and looking at Sealed Air in particular, that's one of the they are the patent holder for bubble wrap, and they're a large packaging company in other sorts of sectors as well. They saw volumes drop by 6% over 2022, and in the last quarter of 2022, volumes in protective sector specifically were down 20% in that last quarter. And that's normally their boom time, that last quarter. It really shows how weak the consumer was during what should be typically that peak season at the end of the year. So that's another kind of, sign. Yeah.
Well, that NTI, that graphic I showed you, that was from last week. That was at 288. I actually pulled it up this morning. It was 245. So a big jump. Anytime we've had like an opportunity to capture some elevation in these rates, it seems like it has just fallen out of the market time and time again. I got something from a load board on in just a little bit I'll be able to get to, but it's time for your stupid question of the week. And this one comes courtesy of Sally Bloom. It's a thought exercise. And it says, you're in an arena, Rachel Premack, with 50 hawks, 10 crocodiles, 3 brown bears, 15 wolves, 1 hunter with a rifle, 7 buffalo, 10,000 rats, 5 gorillas, and 4 lions. Pick two to defend you. The others attack you, and you got to survive for an hour. This is tough.
So I'm definitely going to go with the hunter with a rifle for my first.
They would just shoot you if you didn't take them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm out. I'm done. And plus, I think the other key part of this is like, which creature can I communicate with to say to the attack the other ones? That's a whole other side of things that I can't even figure and think about right now. So I'm actually going to pick the hawks because they've got the advantage from above. So hunter with the rifle and the hawks, if I can somehow communicate to the hawk, like, to help me out here.
You've finally given a good answer on this show. I'm with you 100%. It's no doubt it's the hawks and the hunter with the rifle. You got to take the hunter with the rifle. He'll just kill you if you don't. So got to do that. Well, Rachel, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Read Rachel's articles on FreightWaves.com and subscribe to her newsletter, Modes. And while you're going to FreightWaves to do that, subscribe to the What the Truck newsletter as well. There'll be a new one out tomorrow. Take care, Rachel.
All right. Thanks.
Take it easy. All right. Meanwhile, these are how ships give birth. It's pretty if you can get close to that, like walk up to your TV screen, or if you got mobile on, put that really close to your eyeballs. You can see the window panes on that when they launch these ships in the water. It's a pretty aggressive process. They actually rattle. I don't think any fell out, but you can actually see them rattle as they jump into the water. I would love to go to one of those launches. Any out there, you do ship launches, please let me know. But in the meantime, I'm going to talk to Rick Malchow, JJ Keller, industry advisor. Maybe we could use a dash cam to film one of these little ship launches. How you doing today, Rick?
Well, I am just doing awesome. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Have you ever had the chance, the opportunity to see a ship be put out into the wild like that?
I have never had that opportunity, but I just loved your conversation with Rachel. I mean, wow, what a gamut, right? To go from train derailment to beer to what's going on with rates to hawks, hunters, and it's diverse. I'll tell you that much.
It is diverse. You know what is diverse too? How some people drive their trucks. Some people don't like a dash cam at all. Some people have a truck like this guy's right here. Look at how many cameras are on this particular truck. I think I counted 11. You have more on this truck than you have like the autonomous trucks have out there. I've been to Torque, and I think that there's more sensors.
Well, and, those look like they're all connected, right? They look like internet cameras. So, you can just imagine the display that's in there, to go from 8 different cameras, 8 different views, but certainly understands the value of, protecting themselves on what's going on in and around the vehicle. And, that's really the whole purpose of dash cams is to, of course, started out with, kind of the forward-facing cameras, looking at what's going on the roadway and, what's coming up. And of course, it's been morphing into a lot of continuing with the forward dash cam, but also the driver-facing dash cameras. But you got to have the side cameras, the rear cameras, the angled cameras. That's a whole nother category all on its own.
Yeah, it looked like that particular truck where the big focus was on protecting while it was parked. But a big reason you would use dash cams, right, the interior one facing the driver, the exterior one facing the road, is to help you comply with laws, right, and reduce instances of unsafe driving behaviors. How can they help there?
Well, that's exactly right. So, there are no regulations that require you certainly to have a dash camera, but they do help both drivers and carriers operate safer. You mentioned that unsafe driving. So there's things like, texting and cell phone use. Both of those are prohibited from speeding, violations, failure to obey traffic control devices, lane restriction violations, situations when the vehicle's moving from one lane to the other, maybe without signaling or without knowing what's in its no-go zone, not wearing a seat belt, maybe blowing through a construction zone too quickly, or parking or leaving the vehicle on the roadway, which can be dangerous. Well, there is no more remote worker, certainly, than a truck or bus driver. And how do you know what's going on in their life without having technology in order to help them and to be an extra set of eyes, if you will? And the only way that you can correct these behaviors is if you know about the behaviors, right? The complaint call comes in and it's kind of their word against the driver's word. An accident occurs and it's one driver's word against another's driver's word. Well, this gives the evidence, and really in a lot of cases, exculpatory evidence that the driver wasn't at fault. They were cut off by that four-wheeler, or that driver blew through a red light, and that's why our vehicle struck them.
So, one thing I noticed about being in freight, especially for a while, is it's hard to sell any technology if a fleet doesn't need it, right? If a fleet doesn't care, it doesn't address their concerns. Fortunately, ATRI puts out a top 10 concerns every year for carriers and fleets. How do dash cams and what concerns they address on there?
Well, sure thing. So when I looked at the ATRI's top 10 that they released last year, I identified 6 different areas on that top list that cameras could certainly be impactful for. But really at the top of that list was lawsuit abuse and the risk of having a nuclear verdict. I already mentioned having that dash cam to protect yourself and to say, hey, no, that's not what happened. This is what happened. Well, oftentimes, they say the best defense is a good offense. And if I can show what actually happened, well, gee whiz, that lawsuit may not only not hit the nuclear verdict, it may not hit any verdict at all. One of the top concerns for carriers is controlling costs, especially as you were just covering, the downward trend with rates, right? There's only 2 parts of the equation. You either get more revenue coming in the door, and rates certainly help you with that, or you control your cost. Certainly being involved in a litigation is a cost, but also there's the insurance cost. So it's a top concern, top costs year in, year out for carriers. How can I control costs? How can I work with these insurance companies to reduce my costs? Well, if you can reduce your risk profile, you can reduce your insurance risk. The third area that's really impactful is driver shortages and retention. And, when you think about it, that may not be obvious on the surface, because how can a camera help me retain drivers? Well, if you can help that driver, 1, become a better driver, and 2, back the driver up when they have an accident or a complaint call, hey, that is points going in your column as opposed to looking over the fence and seeing the green on the other side of the fence.
How do they make you more compliant with the FMCSA? I understand the driver side of it, but what about the FMCSA side? You said it wasn't required by law.
Well, it's certainly not required by regulation. So there is no 390 point whatever saying, hey, you got to have these dash cameras. But what the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations do say is that you have to have safety management controls in place. Well, where is that, Rick? Well, it's in section 385.3. Well, what are safety management controls? Well, safety management controls are the systems, the processes, the policies, and the procedures that a carrier uses to make sure their vehicles are operating both safely and compliantly, reducing the chance of there being a hazardous material spill, or an accident. And so if you can connect the information that's coming in from those cameras to artificial intelligence, so you're only getting notified when there is a problem, well, maybe you can do some corrective action training up front, send it to the vehicle, and really that's a really quick way to have some return on investment with these cameras.
Very, very cool. Now, one last thing. The only thing we didn't cover here was your CAT training, right? Can you tell me about that? Because that's another benefit of having these. We got the retention, we got the accountability, right? We understand the insurance and the brokers, but what about some training?
Yep. So that CAT training or corrective action training or CAT training is just, okay, there's an incident, and I may not want to send pull that driver all the way back into the terminal. They might be 1,000 miles away, but that doesn't mean that I can just ignore what happened this morning or what happened yesterday. And so corrective action training can be just a short snippet, maybe a 5-minute training to say, okay, this is what happened. This is what should have happened, and this is how you can be aware of those situations before they happen, so you can be proactively compliant and safe.
Very cool. Rick, where can people learn more about dash cams with JJ Keller?
Well, the best place to go is certainly jjkeller.com. A tremendous amount of information on there about dash cams and how they can keep you safe and compliant.
Very, very cool. Thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it.
All right. Thanks much.
Take care. All right. China, India, Vietnam, Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Switzerland, the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, Canada, and Mexico. AIT Worldwide Logistics has 2,000 supply chain experts in these countries and, of course, in offices across the United States. And in 2023, they're adding more locations around the world as the organization continues to expand and make it easier than ever for customers to ship between Asia, Europe, and North America. If you're ready to create a shipping program as unique as you, as unique as your business, you can learn more at AITworldwide.com. But now it's time to meet Matthew Kane. He's the CEO and founder over at Riteload, and he created the first broker-free load board. Matthew, what's up, man? Where are you sitting right now? Your environment looks nice.
Oh, my living room.
Are you a Philly guy? I thought your company's based in Philly, and I was wondering how you're recovering after that Super Bowl.
Listen, 14 boxes of tissues later, several hours in the fetal position, weeping, crying in the corner. I'm doing just fine.
I mean, you got one with Nick Foles over the Patriots a couple years ago, so at least you have that to rest your laurels on.
We did indeed. So there is a little past grace there in some way, fashion, or form. But this one was a hard one to lose. But look, let's be honest. The best team won. It is what it is. It's a cage match. 2 go in, 1 comes out. Plain and simple.
Well, let's say I wanted to make a load board to keep like Giants fans out. How tough would that be? Or maybe let's make it a little bit more broad. Keep brokers out. What if I wanted to make a load board to keep brokers out? Why would that be a good idea?
Well, I don't know if your show's long enough for that, the answer to that, so we'll try to do cliff notes.
Sure.
10 years ago, when I started this, I had zero knowledge of the trucking industry, none. I started to hear something went down to a big event down in Washington, D.C., wound up talking to a whole bunch of truck drivers down there. Somehow they were telling me about the things, the problems, the good and the bad in the trucking industry. And the more that they told, that I talked to them, the more I started thinking to myself, I think I could fix some of these problems. So I did a little bit of research. I literally jumped in my car. I drove around the country, 8.5 months, went from truck stop to truck stop to truck stop. I still talk to and run into drivers that met me out there 10 years ago. Bought thousands of cups of coffee and half as many buffet dinners, and just asked a gajillion questions. I came back after 8.5 months and began to architect what is now Riteload.
Interesting. Well, what is Riteload? I think we've kind of hinted at it, but you explain to me.
So yes, it really is. It's a pretty basic thought process. It's a load board, much like a lot of the other load boards out there. The only difference is I have limited to direct shippers, so only the shippers themselves can post on our board. The carriers themselves, there is zero brokering allowed. The system will catch in any instance. It doesn't matter. They may think they're going to try to get away with it, but they're certainly not. The system will catch anyone that tries to broker a freight load through the system. Ultimately, probably a lot of your viewers and listeners won't like this statement at all, but the reality boils down to is there are only two entities that absolutely have to work together. And those two entities are the shipper and the carrier. Beyond all of that, everything else is ancillary and bolt-on, add-on pieces.
Interesting. So first of all, how do you keep it pure? How do you vet the board? How do you make sure it's carriers only who are grabbing the shippers? Also, did you consider the name carriers only, like farmers only?
No, actually, how we came up with Riteload was while I was out driving around, if I heard, I don't know, countless numbers of times where I had a driver that said, boy, if I could just get the right load this week, I would be doing a lot better. And I heard that statement so many times, it just stuck and it clicked with me, and I went, Riteload it is. So yeah, there's probably another bunch of other great names out there, but that's the one I decided on.
I like it. Well, how do you vet them though? How do you keep these brokers off? How do you make sure they're not on your board?
Well, we go through the whole process. When they sign up, both shippers and carriers, it's not an automatic. It's a painstaking process on our side. There's a lot of manpower, labor on our side, but we go through that entire process. We make sure that it is, in fact, the shipper themselves, and that the carriers, even carriers that have freight brokerages within them, they have to register their trucks in the system. And if they actually take a load and then it doesn't go into one of the trucks that we actually have in our system, we know that through the mobile app. We know that they've brokered that load outside, and we'll know that instantaneously.
So without like an army of brokers, and you said it, and people can get upset, but you're right. I mean, a lot of 3PLs, their real job is to just be a customer service standpoint that is booking and selling loads. I mean, they're almost like sales and marketing arms for capacity. How does your load board stay healthy, right, and thriving? And what happens with rates when you remove that broker element?
Well, that's another one of those bone of contention conversations. So again, not well liked and well received when we talk about this from a lot of people in the industry. But the reality is the average out there that gets taken off the top from a freight broker is about 20%. It's 15 to 25%. It ranges obviously, but around 20% is the norm. And I've heard a lot worse, even a lot higher numbers than that. But we look at it like this: if a shipper was paying a freight broker $3,000 to move a load, and they take their 20% off of the top, that means there's $2,200, $2,300 or so left over for the carrier. Our approach is, why not put it on for $2,800 or $2,750? So they just saved the $200 or $250, and the carrier's just made another $300, $400 off of that load. And it's only math. I tell everybody, I love my family to death, but math is my best friend in the whole world because it never lies to me. And, people like to try to not use the math because it doesn't go to their point or to their business model. But that's really what it boils down to. It's a very, very simple thing. I'm not a genius over here by any stretch. This is just meat and potatoes. And it's, second and third grade addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division here. And when you start doing that, and the drivers are now making $300, $400, $500 off of every load, they've now got a $40,000, $50,000 a year raise. You start moving just two loads a week. I mean, and that's what it boils down to. I mean, you're talking about they could throw their trailer away every year and a year and a half and go buy a brand new trailer. I mean, it's that significant. And again, it's just math.
Well, our founder and CEO, Craig Fuller, he tweeted just the other day, load boards are so fraught with fraud and identity theft that one of the biggest opportunities in trucking is to disrupt the load boards. Even some of the brokers that use load boards for legit load matching also post duplicates and ghost loads for price discovery. Said someone needs to create a binding load board where both parties are pre-vetted and policed. In 2023, it's time someone stepped up and put a stop to these egregious activities. Would you agree with that? And does Riteload address that?
Absolutely. I would agree with it wholeheartedly. And we've clearly, without question, we've addressed it. Our solution goes much further than the load board. That's why to have this conversation, it would be, a fairly long one. But right now we start from the very, very beginning of when a sales rep sells the 22 pallets worth of widgets to a customer, all the way to the very, very end of when the carrier has made the delivery and gets paid. And every step in between, the whole process. So under one platform, a shipper and a carrier can now work together, directly together, completely eliminating any other entities that need to be in the middle. Again, people say, well, you're in the middle. Yes, we've built, you used a football analogy a few moments ago. We built the football stadium, and what we've done is we've invited both teams to come in and play. And that's what it boils down to. So, yeah, we make a couple dollars off hot dogs and things like that. We have to make $1 out of it as well. But we're doing it at a much more reasonable, cost-effective price point for both sides, shipper and carrier.
Wow, very, very, very cool. You also posted recently, I saw one of your trucks, it was looking nice. It got a wrap on it. Are you wrapping people's trucks?
Yes, that's a program that, yes, we'll wrap your truck and trailer, and by hauling the freight, we'll actually pay you back for every load that you haul through the system. So the more freight you haul, the more money you make. So the average single truck and trailer is going to make somewhere about $2,600, somewhere between $2,600 and $3,000 a year.
Interesting. So you wrap it for them, and then because they're advertising for you, they get some sort of kickback?
Yep.
Very cool.
So it gives us better. I mean, look, they're driving, they're hitting our demographic. They're in the truck stops, they're in the shippers, you know what I mean? They're out on the road. We've got a fairly significant presence at that point with our target demographic.
Very cool. Are you doing the wraps like at your own location? Are you like a truck wrap master?
We have right now we've got a total of 5, and I think there's 2 more that are coming on that we've worked deals out in different areas and locations around the country. So ultimately, I'd like to probably get to 15 or 16 of them. But as you guys were talking a little earlier, economics are tough now. So it's tougher to get people to be a little more aggressive with their pricing. So I've got a budget that I want to live within, and I will live within that budget.
Is it tough for the carriers on your load board, the shippers being overly aggressive? You mentioned, shippers paid a lot over the past few years. They don't want to pay as much right now if they don't have to. Sure.
And again, like I said, this is where what Riteload does is we give them an immediate savings. Shippers, everybody in this industry is looking to save pennies, nickels, and dimes. And, you see people talking about, the dry van rate went from 210 down to 203, and people, you're talking about pennies here. Riteload comes to the table handing out fresh, crisp $100 bills on each one of the loads. I mean, that's what the model is built on. It's built to take, like a multitude of other industries, other people have already taken the middlemen and the freight and the brokers and in a multitude of other types of businesses. They've taken those people out of the middle. And that's all Riteload is. We've just taken it out. Now people can run a heck of a lot more efficiently. They can run much more cost effectively. And there's a ton more of features and benefits than just savings for the shipper and, more money for the carrier. There's a lot more that's in there. Like perfect example, we have one of our partners now, we'll be able to do, we've eviscerated the cost of quick pay and factoring. Factoring companies probably hate us now as well. Look, I'm one of 9 kids. I'm the youngest boy. I got new underwear every, 60 to 90 days. It was just on 4 other sets of butt cheeks before it ever made it to mine. I got hand-me-down everything. I'm not going to get offended because people don't like what we're doing. We built something here that's going to have a fairly profound and dynamic change in the industry from our perspective. We'll soon be able to pay carriers after they made their delivery within 30 minutes, and there's no additional charge. It's part of the whole program.
Well, you said this industry needs a makeover, and I don't think you meant a truck wrap. So before I let you go, how so? How does the industry need a makeover?
Well, if you stop and think about it, Tim, your show and a million other people are out there talking about, the trucking industry does this throughout the course of the year. The rates are high, the rates are low, the rates are high. It's killing the shippers in one quarter, it's killing the carriers in another quarter. It becomes very, very dramatic changes. And what I firmly believe that Riteload brings to the table is, instead of these big drastic ones, I think we'll have tiny little hips as we run through the year. You're going to have your season changes, et cetera, and that's going to happen. But I think we're going to be able to take those significantly high peaks and much lower valleys and bring them a lot closer to each other without being so drastic. That's just one of them. There's, we could sit for days talking about problems that you guys already discuss on your show on a daily basis. Are we going to fix them all? No, we're not. But two of the biggest things is obviously it's money. That's what it boils down to. I hear people talk about driver shortage, Tim, all the time. Realistically, look, you put a load out there for $3,000 and nobody responds, and everybody says it must be a driver shortage. But put it out there for $4,000 and 3 trucks show up. No, it's not. It's not a driver shortage. It's a money shortage.
Sure.
Okay. I've been saying this for 10 years since I got into the business, because, when you hear people say the industry is short 40,000 trucks, well, an intelligent person would look at that and say, well, if that's the truth, that means yesterday 40,000 loads didn't get picked up, and today another 40,000 loads, and tomorrow another 40,000. Now we have 120,000 loads sitting on docks somewhere across the country over
it's
a
only
3-day
Wednesday.
period. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. That's not true. Do you know what I mean? It's not true. It's a retention basin problem, rather, for the bigger carriers. And, you've got guys that are going in. Yes, you got the drivers that are coming in and out of the business. It's a tough business. It's a very eclectic demographic of people that come from all walks of life. And some people are better at it. Some people are the most amazing drivers in the world. And other guys just might not be, and they might not be the greatest of business people. It doesn't make them bad people. It just makes them not great at running their business properly. So you're always going to have that in this industry. But by taking some of those problems that are the most prevalent problems in the industry, which I feel like we've attacked, we have fixed them. No ifs, ands, or buts. And we're excited. We're just 2 weeks or so from literally going live. We start our live beta testing next week with one of our shippers, and provided everything, we have no issues, no glitches. We've already done all of our internal testing. It looks like by the 28th or the 1st or the 2nd of March, we'll actually be live again with a full array of benefits for both sides, shipper and carrier. We're really, really excited about it.
Well, very cool. A little cowbell for you and the team. That's coming up in a few weeks. In the meantime, go to riteload.com. Go match yourself with a shipper or a carrier and see how it all works. Matthew Kane, thank you so much for your time today on the show.
Thank you for having me on. I much appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Take care. Take care. Well, spoke to one Wounded Eagles fan just now. Let's talk to another one. This sucker actually spent money going to games this year. It's SuperTrucker. What's up, man? How do you feel? You cut off Rooster's head, and now it's just you.
I'm the Highlander. There can be only one.
There could be only one. You are the Back the Truck Up trivia champion. That's not to say that what the trivia is done for. There are much more contestants coming. There will eventually be a tournament of champions that you will have to brush your knowledge up for. But are you feeling good after that Super Bowl loss? Did it feel all right to you?
What a sucky call. That one bad call really just kind of killed the whole momentum of the game. The one live game I went to this year was also the only other game that they lost. So,
oh man,
I'm never allowed back.
Well, you weren't at the Super Bowl, were you?
No. I was at the Washington game, and I got there late because of traffic. The game was off to a great start. As I was going up the stairs of the stadium, they had their first touchdown. And then I got to the seats, and everyone's like, "Oh, this is going to be the easiest game ever. It's it's Washington. They got this." And then by the time the game was over, people were in the stands like, "We lost? What the hell?"
It's a trap game. Then Washington is like the league of trap game teams. They're the top of that list. They're like one of those teams they're like everyone thinks they suck, but they're like sneaky 8-8 a lot of time, or 7-9. Like they had to get 7 wins in there. You got to be careful on those division games. But you've been out on the road a lot when you were a driver, and yesterday was Valentine's Day. Here's a gift that a driver got. Let's take a look. They got to load that up. Well, what's the best Valentine's Day gift? Oh, here it comes.
Morning, let's go surprise him with his Valentine's little goodie bag I made for him. Here's his semi. Let's open it on up.
Nice little garage is parked in.
Yeah. They have another video on their TikTok where they're cleaning that thing for the Super Bowl. What's going on here? They might have to reboot that video. Hold on. I'll let them work on that. Video. But basically, she gave him, some sugar-free Red Bull. She gave him some Mountain Dew. She gave him some really nice chocolate-covered strawberries and some candy and whatnot. Not like, the most expensive items in the world, but something just to get you through your day, especially as a dude. As dudes, we don't really expect much. Yeah. How about you?
No, it takes very little. A card, some chocolates, a thank you. I was single while I was over the road. It wasn't until I got off the road, became local, and I started dating, and now I'm married. So yeah, I'm home every day now. But yeah, little things like that when you're on the road, just to remind you of why you're on the road. People back home still care about you. Stuff like that really matters.
Yeah. What would you suggest? What would be your ideal gift packet?
I think she did a really good job right there. Just something small, doesn't take up a lot of space. Some chocolates, and she had like a weird water bottle in there. I'm not really sure about that.
I think it was just like pure water. I think she already had like the Red Bull in there. She already had like a Mountain Dew. So I think maybe she like just something healthy.
Yeah, just whatever.
She's the girl.
Whatever your driver likes. Communication is key.
What do you think about Landline, what they did here with their Valentines? Check out some of these ones.
Those are hilarious. So I actually screenshot that and like one by one sent them to my wife throughout the day on Facebook, just rolling her eyes. I love this stuff. These are hilarious.
Which one's your favorite?
Definitely the lizard, but I love you lots. It's a great pun.
Yeah,
I'm a huge sucker for puns.
Yes. Okay. I'll let that one rest right there. Well, autonomous trucks, we showed that truck earlier that had like 1,000 cameras on it to defend itself. I don't think those are actually autonomous sensors. We have another video here from Zoox. Can we check that one? Is that good, guys? Okay. Zoox is on the fritz. Man, you got to ride in that Plus autonomous truck, right? They freak you out, these autonomous trucks?
No, that one was basically like we're just really nice cruise control, automatic lane departure. I told them it needs to be a little more aggressive. I didn't like how when you pull the stick to change the lanes, it takes like a good 10 seconds before it initiates the lane change. I told them give it like a good northeastern driver mode. It needs to be a little more aggressive. But I told them the best person to drive a truck like that would be somebody with zero experience, just to get the training wheels on, and then put them in a different truck, to get their more experience, or somebody with decades of experience that just wants to ride out their sunset years.
You know what?
Those are the best kind of drivers for a truck like that.
But here's the problem. Like, the only way you drive a truck like that is if you're a safety driver, and usually you need some experience. Although you did see that one listing for sort of inexperienced safety drivers. But the whole point that they're selling these to people on was that there won't be drivers in the cab. So I don't think you're actually going to ever sell one of those safety systems. So I think it kind of puts you in one of those quandaries. Like, for example, the Zoox one, if they can get this video running, you can actually see it in action, but I'll tell you about it. More than 2 years ago, Zoox started, playback has crashed, 1, 2, set it on fire, guys in the back, our video playback machine. More than 2 years ago, Amazon subsidiary Zoox, they unveiled this electric autonomous truck, and it almost looked like that, the Cruise one that I showed from Manifest. And this is it's kind of a people mover out there. California Department of Motor Vehicles, which is also interesting because you hear Elon talking endlessly about how far advanced the Teslas are as robo-taxis, but the actual robo-taxis you're seeing out there are by Waymo, not by Tesla. But now Zoox has this. Kind of interesting. They're going to be able to drive these things around. However, it's only going to be able, it's like most of these stuff, geo-fenced, and it's only moving employees around their building in Foster City, California.
Yeah, it'll be baby steps until legislation catches up. They're really limited on what they can do right now.
Interesting. So wait, you got none of these play decks? We have a lot of these are video ones, so we're going to have to... The whole computer in the back crashed. That's interesting. So I can't show you any of these ones, but there was a big hazmat acid rollover, and we saw the train. You used to move a little hazmat, did you not?
Yeah. Mine was mostly explosives. I didn't do any flammable or radioactive. But this truck that had rolled over, it was carrying nitric acid, pretty dangerous stuff. It was also there was a weight limit in effect for 10,000 pound and under loads, so they shouldn't have even been on the road in the first place. And unfortunately, the driver did pass away in that situation.
Oh, the one where what was this nitric acid that fell over? Where was this, in Arizona, right?
Yeah, on I-10. The winds can get pretty high out there. I have unfortunately been across I-40 many times with the winds being super crazy. I've never had to shut down because of the winds, but I guess they're taking it a little more serious now, and they'll just shut down any kind of weight restrictions because of situations like this.
Interesting. So you mentioned wind there. How much, when you were pulling these loads, was it very imperative that you guys stayed on the ball on weather and didn't go out in the wrong type of wind or ice or anything to that effect? Yeah,
because you never want to be caught. Most of the loads you're carrying are very light in situations like that. So, the wind is like the biggest one. Snow, ice, rain, you just go slow. You take your time, you be as safe as you can. But wind, you could be parked. And if you're not facing the right direction, the wind will tip you over. So you constantly got to be vigilant. Check your weather apps on your phone. Be in constant communication with your dispatchers and your satellite tracking, and let them know, hey, this is what's going on. And I've never had any situation hauling that kind of freight where they were like, no, you really got to get going. They're really looking for you. It's always, don't feel safe, I'm parking. And they're like, okay, cool. Yeah, there's absolutely no reason that truck should have been moving.
Interesting. I wish we had the video. We're probably not going to get play deck back up in time, but as you can see, it's on its side, and like this big cloud of chemicals is radiating.
Yeah, pretty ominous footage.
What is the so I don't have the video to play, but what is the dumbest truck stunt you and your buddies have done? The one I had here was a guy jumping from a tire to the other side, and his friend is telling him, he's like, look, dude, you're 55 years old, 220 pounds. You're going to land crotch-legged across this tire. And of course the guy jumps, and he does. What about you guys? So what about you in the chili house?
When I don't know if I should even say who it was for, but when I was a local driver, anytime we got rain that turned into ice overnight, the yard would get really slick. And so if you're just bobtailing through the lot, you can do some pretty cool donuts in the truck doing that.
There's another video.
That's as far as we'd ever go. Nothing out of control. Nothing on the streets too.
Now, there's another video going around on Back the Truck Up social media, and it's of a guy fired for touching his cell phone. Tell me about that policy. Too stringent. What happened in the video?
Yeah, they were a tanker company, hauling all kinds of different freight, hazmat, and otherwise. But a lot of mega carriers now are instituting like a zero tolerance policy. You can't even touch your phone. Everything's hands free. Not even Bluetooth headset. And it's all CYA. They're doing everything they can to avoid nuclear verdicts these days. And drivers are going to be the ones caught in the crossfire once you get caught.
Interesting. What? By the way, when I was talking to Riteload, what did you think about the idea of making some money with a wrap on your truck?
Easy money. You take an Uber driver, you take enough Uber rides, you're going to see one, with a weird wrap on their car. They do everything that they can to squeeze as much money as they can out of their cars. If it's your truck and you think it looks like a cool paint job, it has the added benefit of one, protecting the paint job, and if it's a product you like and it looks cool enough, sure, why not?
Yeah. Is there any like product that you definitely wouldn't want on the side of your truck?
Escort services, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, I guess that's well, Elon is allowing, I just read today that Elon is going to start allowing marijuana advertising on Twitter in states where it's legal. Although on a semi truck, that, like, remember those guys in Ohio, they only had hemp and they got nailed. So I would be careful with the although when I was in Vegas, there were like so many of the cabs there were wrapped for like the different recreational dispensaries. A lot of that weed money is being poured into advertising.
Yeah, and I think it was you that retweeted a carrier a while back in, I think, Colorado. They use Sprinter vans for a lot of their deliveries. And I asked them, do you guys use semis at all? Is there anything preventing you from using semis? And basically they were like, we just don't haul enough volume for semis like that. As far as I know, I don't know of any semis right now hauling weed legally through the U.S. right now.
Well, that was Colin Landforce that with his group. Yeah, it's a bunch of troubles because of the whole intra-state thing. Maybe you should send the 18-year-olds to go do that. They'll get off on more lenient behavior. All right, so you have a new podcast out. You interviewed Snorlax.
Yep. Snorlord.
Snorlax is from Pokemon.
I was kind of eye-rolling at the name, but he explained it to us. He is in a death metal band called Apnea, and he has a reputation for being a prolific snorer, so the name is perfect. Impressive beard, impressive resume. The guy was really cool talking to. He started off as a driver at a mega carrier just like us, worked his way up to being an owner-operator, now he's a broker. So if you want to learn how to do that, by all means, listen to the conversation. He'll walk you through it step by step.
Death metal, trucking, and broker training. I love it. I'll have to have him on to play it forward and play it track. Hey, go find SuperTrucker on social media. Look up @SuperTrucker on Twitter. Look up @BackTheTruck on Twitter for social media. Look up their podcasts, wherever you get podcasts from. Look up What the Truck while you're there. Download the FreightWaves CF. Find me on Twitter @Timothy Dooner. That's DOONER. Subscribe to the newsletter, FreightWaves.com/WTT. Take care and don't be a stranger.
FreightWaves is the #1 source for transportation and logistics news. FreightWaves.com provides you with in-depth news coverage, data, and insights from the leading industry journalists and market experts. On FreightWaves.com, you can also watch the only streaming TV network dedicated to freight. FreightWaves TV provides you with coverage you won't find anywhere else. However you like your news delivered, check us out online or on the FreightWaves app.
The Truck is now 3 days a week.
FreightWaves is the #1 source for transportation and logistics news. FreightWaves.com provides you with in-depth news coverage, data, and insights from the leading industry journalists and market experts. On FreightWaves.com, you can also watch the only streaming TV network dedicated to freight. FreightWaves TV provides you with coverage you won't find anywhere else. However you like your news delivered, check us out online or on the FreightWaves app.
When guests come to an event like F3, we know what they want is a chance to show off their products, their swag, and make new partnerships that will last until our next FreightWaves event.
But the problem is there are so many industry events, it can be so hard to find the right one to invest your time and energy in. We at FreightWaves take your investment seriously.
Which is why we've brought together thousands of industry professionals in one city over 3 days to showcase all you have to offer.
Because your successful connections at an event like F3 move all of us forward.
Don't believe us?
Join us in June.
It's a good day coming.
Hello and welcome to Full Speed Ahead. I'm Craig Fuller here with Mark Cosaglo. He is the VP of Sales for Outreach.io. Mark, how are you doing today?
Good, man. How you doing, Craig?
Doing well. So, Mark, a lot of interest around sales tools that really enhance the sales process. Tell us a little bit about Outreach.
Yeah. Outreach is a sales execution platform. The purpose of Outreach is to help people overcome the sales execution gap. What you can think about that as is there's the potential that your sales team could operate at if everything worked the way that you intended and planned. And then there's the actual where you actually end up operating at. There's a gap between those two things. A lot of companies, for example, realize that gap when their revenue growth plans don't match up with their headcount growth plans. So there's an implied productivity gap that they need to overcome in order to hit those revenue targets. And so Outreach is a technology that sales organizations, customer success organizations, SDR organizations can use to make their reps more productive to overcome that gap.
So how are you driving productivity? What is the sort of key part of the technology or solution that's really enhancing that productivity?
Yeah, it's kind of on several levels. So think about it first, Craig, if you're thinking in the prospecting top of funnel area, there's discipline required and consistency that leads to outcomes. Outreach's technology applies master, super experienced level of consistency, even with junior young reps. So think of a young sales hire, first time in seat. They just don't have the consistency and discipline necessarily to call somebody 23 times over the next 2 quarters. But our best reps are doing those sorts of things. And to get the same results, the new reps need to do those things. Outreach helps them with that discipline and consistency. The second major area is around automation. And so, there's things that the machine can do now that we as people just don't need to do. Many companies, though, are still forcing the reps to do those things. And the more of those things they do, the less high value activities that they can do. So an example is, would you rather your reps write another follow-up email, or would you rather them be in a meeting or planning an account plan type of situation in order to get into an account? The latter are much more higher value things than sending a follow-up email. So let's just let the machine do that because it's very capable of that. And then the last thing is I think in the end, what ends up happening with a lot of people is they either have great people doing all the right things, but our messaging is messing up their productivity and outcomes. Or we have messaging that's great and performs, but reps that aren't using it correctly. And identifying which scenario you're in so that you know how to fix it becomes really important. So those are the top of funnel things. There's also pipeline areas as we get into the sales cycle. And then there's also some of those value props after an account is a customer and you're trying to renew and expand the business.
So a lot of it sounds like cadence and consistency is probably among the most important things, is just staying current with the clients and having touch points. Is that really the differentiator between a successful rep and an unsuccessful rep from what you guys seen?
It's one of the things. And I would say like 4 years ago, I would have said you've actually hit the bullseye, Craig. I don't know if that's the bullseye anymore. So think about it like this, like a cadence or what we call a sequence. We actually invented and hold a patent for that technology. Helps you with a series of touch points or rep activities over time that are at an interval that are trying to accomplish something. That could be booking a meeting, getting back a security review, working through procurement, whatever it is. There's another type of system that works for closing reps. Closing reps need that kind of help, but they also need what are the series of steps that I need to work my way through to get this person to agree to purchase? And we call that a success plan. Some people call it a mutual action plan. So that's the sequence solution of a closing job to be done, or a closing role. And then you need the same sort of thing for a customer success person that's trying to renew and expand. And so I would say it's gone much beyond cadencing technology. That's kind of table stakes now. We've had to build out more value after that, but that still is a key component of our technology.
Mark, a lot of automation tools have really made the sales process feel to a recipient very unpersonalized. It feels very programmatic. I get inundated with hundreds, if not thousands of emails a day from suppliers of any technology and service that anyone can possibly mention, because I'm as CEO and founder of the company, I tend to be on a lot of lists. And how does a rep differentiate? How do they sort of avoid the noise and get through all that when I am naturally trying to filter away from any of those inbounds? How do you really find success in today's automated environment?